My Democratic colleagues won't like me saying this. I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro, good for the black. Other than the fact that they still call me boy, I think they've changed their mind a little bit.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Alright guys, so if you didn't know, Sleepy Joe has awoken from his nap and his vacation that he seems to be taking all the time while in the White House. He doesn't really seem to be doing much governing of this country, okay? But, you know, he's on tour because the midterms are coming up, and for whatever reason, Democrats are deciding to roll Joe Biden out there to talk and to tell people how to vote, okay? And doing this tour, right? He calls it his Safer America tour, right? He's touting his policies and things that he feels is going to make this country safer. And one of the things that he talks about that he believes is going to make the country safer is getting rid of so-called assault weapons, right? You guys already know what the Democrats want to do. They are basically trying to get rid of the Second Amendment, okay? They don't believe that the Second Amendment is absolute, which is something that Joe Biden has stated multiple times. And I want to respond to a few of his comments from his speech. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel, you can support my channel, you can check out my merch, my donkeypox shirts, the disease that's affecting America, or my hashtag no days off / hard work t-shirts, or my MAGA Hub shirts. They're all available at my website, gforemanbcp.com. Get 20% off using discount code gforemanbcp. So without further ado, let's roll the clip of Joe Biden in his anti-gun remarks, in which he basically makes the argument that we don't need guns because if there was a war between the government and the people, we would be no match for the military. Take a listen.
They're not unlimited. Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale that's used to provide this, and who they shooting at. Shooting at these guys behind me.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but I find it to be very, very disturbing when the President of the United States repeatedly makes claims and arguments that you don't need weapons and guns because if you got into a war with the United States military, right, to defend yourselves against us if we became tyrannical, which, you know, the Democrat Party, they're basically a tyrannical party at this point. You wouldn't be able to win a war against us, so you should just give up your guns, right? Does anybody else find that to be very disturbing that the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is actively telling people that they should give up their guns because if we decided to turn the military on you, you wouldn't be able to win anyway, so you should just not be able to defend yourself at all, right? That is the rationale that Joe Biden is using here. But I think that the opposite argument actually makes more sense, okay? The argument that we should be able to keep our guns because at the individual level, as individuals, we should have the right to defend ourselves, not only when it comes to, you know, personal defense, okay, out in everyday life, but yeah, if the government turned the military against us, even if, you know, society as a whole wouldn't necessarily stand a chance, that doesn't mean that as an individual, I shouldn't have a chance to try to survive and to protect my family, even if we're at war with the military. Which, again, I don't think is a foregone conclusion that even if, you know, the United States military, you know, attack civilians or whatever, that it would necessarily mean that we would lose because war is about more than just who has the bigger guns and who has nukes and stuff like that, right? Evidenced by the wars that we didn't really do so good in, right? Like Vietnam, in which we effectively outgunned the Vietnamese, the Viet Cong. However, they had better tactics because they knew the terrain, right? There are other things that goes into war, okay, and winning a war. And I also don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the United States military, all of the military, would turn against the citizens, right? I'm pretty sure there would be factions of the military that would be like, no, we're not going to fight against, you know, civilians, especially in the case of a tyrannical dictator-like government. that the Democrat Party seems to want. Also on top of this, guys, Joe Biden admitting and saying that the American people, regular folks, even with assault weapons or so-called assault weapons, right, they have no chance against the military, is him inadvertently admitting that January 6th was not a real attempt to take over the government, right? Joe Biden just told you that you guys have no chance versus the military. That's why you should just give up your guns, right? Including your rifles. You just give them up. You have no chance. So how can you sit here and say that January 6th was a takeover attempt of the government when those people that went to the Capitol had no guns? And even they had guns, including rifles, according to Joe Biden, they still would have no chance. So how was it a attempt to take over the government? I mean, these people were unarmed. Let's say that they actually took over the Capitol building. Okay, what happens next? The military comes in and then all those people get killed, right? They all die. That's what happens. Again, according to Joe Biden. So how was it a realistic takeover attempt of the government? It wasn't, according to Joe Biden's own argument, right? But again, these weren't the only controversial comments that Joe Biden said. He also made some comments that people on the right are basically calling racist. And I want to go ahead and play the clip for you guys, and y'all tell me what you think about Joe Biden's comments.
My deceased son, Bo, he was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. And what he used to do is go down on the east side, what's called the Bucket, highest crime rate in the country. There's a place where I was the only white guy that worked as a lifeguard down in that area, on the east side. And you know you can always tell where the best basketball in the state is and the best basketball in the city is. It's where everybody shows up.
Yeah, so that's old Joe, right? That's the old Joe we used to know. The same Joe that used to hang out with people that were affiliated with the Klan, okay? Joe basically made comments to the effect of, he used to, be in this high crime area, right? Highest crime area in the state. Okay, he used to work as a lifeguard. He used to be the only white person around. So, we can extrapolate from Joe Biden's comments that everyone else around him was not white, okay? Joe used to be in the hood, right? Joe used to be in the hood. And he also says that this is where you find the best basketball players, right? The best basketball. So what we have here, folks, is Joe Biden making comments to the effect of the highest crime places in, Delaware or whatever, all black people live there, right? All non-white folks live there, okay? And also, by the way, that's where the best basketball is at, right? Again, comments that if Trump would have said something like that, or some conservative Republican said something like that, if he was white, people will be calling racism. They'd be screaming racism. Now, me personally, do I know if the comments were racist? I can give Joe Biden a pass for that, right? I don't necessarily want to accuse a guy of racism, unless, he made some comments that's more overt than that. But I can definitely see why people are, saying, hey, these comments are a little suspect, especially considering Joe Biden's history of making these types of racialized comments. Roll the clip.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and nice-looking guy.
Biden recalling his early Senate career, bringing up two segregationist senators, Herman Talmadge and James Eastland, who called African Americans an inferior race. I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland, Biden said. He never called me boy. He always called me son. At least there was some civility. We got things done.
The senators that he is speaking of with such adoration are individuals who made and built their reputation on segregation. The Ku Klux Klan celebrated the election of one of them.
Using the word boy in the way he did can cause hurt and pain, and we need a presidential nominee and the leader of our party to be sensitive to that.
My Democratic colleagues don't like me saying this. I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro, good for the black. Other than the fact that they still call me boy, I think they've changed their mind a little bit.
As also noted, Robert C. Byrd was a parliamentary library, a keeper of the institution of the Senate, and he was the institution itself. For a lot of us, he was a friend.
and he was a mentor, and he was a guide.
1987, he bragged about getting an award from George Wallace.
Biden bragged about an award from the notorious segregationist Governor George Wallace and told the Philadelphia Inquirer, "I think the Democratic Party could stand a liberal George Wallace, someone who's not afraid to stand up and offend people."
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Biden was remarking to an audience in South Virginia that included hundreds of black voters.
If Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot.
The reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf.
One thing Biden is being slammed for is the crime bill he helped write 25 years ago that many critics say resulted in mass incarceration, especially of young African-American men.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing.
It did contribute to mass incarceration in our country.
There's about 100,000 of them, if you want to be rhetorically extreme about it, who are the predators. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Yeah, so admittedly, some of the stuff Joe Biden was saying was kind of based. But I'm just saying, this guy has a history of making comments that people could easily characterize as racially charged, right? So nobody should be surprised that during one of his speeches, when he's going off on one of his tangents, he says something that, people can say, hey, this is sketchy, right? This is sketchy, okay? Especially considering this guy's history. I guarantee you couldn't find a montage of Trump saying comments like that, okay? Couldn't find one. And that montage is a lot longer than what I showed you guys, okay? I had to cut it short because I'm not trying to make the video super long. But again, it really does rub me the wrong way to see the President of the United States continuously make comments about how he wants to take America's guns, right? Take people's guns away because, if the government decided to turn the military on, the people, we wouldn't stand a chance. Again, it almost sounds like a threat. I would advise him to stop making those types of comments towards the American people. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.